exactly are the Stevie Awards?
Sure. So the Stevie Awards were created back in 2002. We only had one awards competition then, which was the American Business Awards. Since then, we've created 7 more. So now we have 8 separate competitions that each have their own entry deadline schedule, their own award ceremony. We also started a women's conference a few years ago. And I met Brenda at the Women Future Conference last year in 2019. And she's the HR expert, so we've been chatting since then. And so today we're kind of focusing on the Stevie Awards for Great Employers. These awards in particular focus on HR excellence. We say the awards recognize the world's best companies to work for and the HR teams, professionals, achievements, new products, and solutions and supplies that help create and drive great places to work. It's one of our newer competitions. It's 5 years old. And it's just kind of nice to be able to recognize people within your organization that maybe haven't been recognized before, but really deserve it. I think especially as you get older, it's kind of hard to get recognized. You know, when you're young, you're in school, there's academic awards, there's sports, and then you grow up and it's like you go to work every day, put in so many hours, and it's like sometimes you feel forgotten. So it's kind of a nice opportunity to recognize people, teams, campaigns, achievements, and, you know, basically submit a nomination. It can be a video, it can be just a 700-word essay. Doesn't take too much time and just brings so much happiness to different organizations every year. So
the real interesting part about especially these awards, the Great Employer Awards, is recognizing people in the workplace, which I just don't think happens often enough. And you're from the HR background, Brenda, you'd probably agree with me that, as Maggie said, often it's day in, day out. You go in, you do your job, you get paid for that, and that's it. So adding awards to any business is awesome, but specifically in the corporate space, I think it's so good in terms of business culture and your brand culture and setting yourself out as being quite different from other people in the industry, and also loyalty and productivity from your staff. Just a huge amount that you can add from that. But from an entry point of view, you're right, being a judge gives you this like extra superpower that you can now see what goes on in the back end of awards, which is great. I think definitely number one is choose the right category. How many categories, Maggie, in the upcoming Great Entrepreneurs Awards, Great Employers Awards?
It's one of our smaller competitions, but we still have a ton of categories. I think it's around 200.
Yeah, madness, 200 categories. So yeah, so not many, of course, none, hardly any. So
yeah, very specific.
Just, you know, so definitely choose the right category. I mean, choose a category that makes sense to your business, your brand, your message, your purpose, but also the person. If you're entering that and you're nominating someone to say, hey, I think we should enter this person or whatever it is, choose the category that's going to make the most sense to that person, whether at in their journey, in their career, what they have actually been doing, if they've been innovative or if they've been, you know, really a part of a team, whatever it is. Really think about what category is going to suit them best to enter. And then when you are entering them, make sure you tell a story. When a judge is reading this, it's not just about reading dot points and this person started on this date and they achieved X amount of sales or whatever it was. Yes, the facts are important, but we need to read more about this person. You know, what was their background? What were the challenges that they faced? How did they overcome them? Where do you see them going in the future? There's a real opportunity in awards to share far more than just the dot points, and really talk about the journey that this person has gone on and what their future is looking like. And it's a great way to really reinforce and endorse what you're doing as a brand in terms of your employees and what they're doing in the business. And secondly is, I know the Stevies write this all the time, and it's awesome because I love talking about it, is it's not compulsory that you put supporting documentation on there, but according to judges, it actually is compulsory. We really like to see if you mention in your entry that this particular employee has done something, then put it in an attachment. You know, if there's a certification that they've got, or photographs or testimonials or something else that you can provide as a supporting documentation, put it into one PDF. So it's really easy for the awards judge to read the entry and then click on one document, and you can put links in there to videos and all sorts of things. A lot of the entries these days, which is great, the Stevies are enabling people to upload videos as an entry. You know, make sure that when you're doing that, it's professional, there's great lighting, there's great sound, all those sorts of things. It's, I would say, and I don't know whether Maggie and Brenda would agree with me on this, but I would say in some cases, up to 50% of your award win is based on how you've presented yourself in the entry. It's not about what you've done. That's only 50% of it is actually what you're being awarded for. I would say up to 50% is based on how well you present yourself in your entry.
I spend a lot of time with our judging coordinator, so they read all the comments and get all the feedback from judges, and you know, they're like, this is a business awards competition. We want to see proper grammar, creativity. Yeah. We want to be interested, not just like a bunch of bullet points. So I agree, you have to have the accomplishment, but then writing the actual entry or filming the video is, you know, it's a learning experience. You kind of have to dive deep into the past year or whenever the project was you're nominating, or the person, and then put a lot of effort into the writing or editing.
I worked at AXA, which is a big international financial corporation, as their brand manager. I was given the task of running the sponsorship that year for the International Rugby Sevens, and I was given, I think, a quarter of the previous 2 years' budgets. So I had less than half the same budgets for the previous 2 years to run this thing, and I ended up creating 15% more brand awareness with a quarter of the budget. So it was nice. I got a little bonus, I got a nice little pat on the back, things like that. But even telling that story, what I want to know from a judge's point of view is, that's great, you've managed to do this. How did you do it? Right. So, you know, what were the actual unique or innovative ways that this person or this team approached the project or approached what they were tasked with, that they've either pulled, like you say, Brenda, they've pulled on their history or their expertise, their experience that they brought to the table, or they've worked really well together and seamlessly as a team, or they've added an innovative way of thinking or a new software, or what was it that they did that enabled them to get this result. So we need to see the whole picture. We certainly don't need to know, you know, what color of underwear they were wearing on the 14th of January at 5 a.m. We need to know, you know, we need to know what each member of the team brought to it and what the story was around why that project was successful.
Exactly, and that's why we limit the nominations to be, we say, only described from the past year and a half. We don't need to know what happened 20 years ago. We want to know what you did last year.
The American Business Awards, recently I received honors for 2. I got the bronze in Best Podcast. This show got the bronze in Best Podcast, Business Podcast. And then I got Achievement in Human Resources. And I want to tag what you're saying, because when I went back and I actually looked at who in the top 3, you know, we were contending with. So on the Best Business Podcast, it was this show got the bronze, and then there's silver and gold. Silver went to BHO, their financial, which is a huge national financial, you know, financier, and then Intel. So it was Intel, BHO, and then little old me, right?
Yeah, so
I was like, holy crap. Some of my friends, they're like, so who won first and second? I told them, and we'd have to, I'd spent about 30 seconds bleeping out everything that they just said, but just know it was a pretty insane
response. You're like, that's some great competition.
Right, exactly. And then, you know, over in the, you know, achievement in HR, you know, there was no silver. So it was me and a couple of other people. One was a smaller organization up in DC, and then me. And there was somebody else that I don't know who they are, and then there was Cisco who won gold. God, you know, I'm competing against these multi-gazillion-dollar companies, and there's just little me right in there. Yeah. So, you know, but you know but that's what it is. It's about accomplishment. It's about, you know, making sense of what it is that you're doing. So from an individual level, I can certainly say, I mean, it's a great feeling, and Lauren can say the same thing, is to have that recognition. But it is, I mean, it definitely puts you in a unique category.
Yeah. So Brenda, I would ask the question, how does that now make you feel about what you're doing for your role as your career and what you've chosen to do? How does it now make you feel about that?
Oh, damn good.
So can you imagine what that does to the people who work for you in your business or for your team or your staff, or, and the self-confidence and the positivity, all very well to, pay them bonuses and things if they deliver on time. That's fantastic. But recognition is going to be a massive factor in terms of good mental health in the workplace and all those sorts of elements that people need to be thinking about.
I'll be honest, you know what it really did for me? Like huge. You have this wonderful thing. I call it your Geppetto, right? Or your Jiminy Cricket, excuse me, that little thing that sits on your shoulder and goes, and you're like, you can't do this. What do you think you're doing? Your term for it is the
itty bitty shitty committee. Yeah.
There you go. I love that. And it's all of that limiting self-belief that you have. But then this happens and you get an award or you do something. And you know what? It's like, well, X number of judges think I'm doing a good job. So we can put that little conversation aside because it did make a difference, And it's pretty amazing. It does tend to validate all the stuff that you do when you don't get that on a regular basis.
The fact that this was, part of the celebration for the agency, but the issue was I just saw awards as being a bit of an ego trip, as being a big deal for the agency. But what did it really mean? Because all I saw was the fact that they were just hidden away in this room. So I think the bigger thing, Brenda, is what do people do to leverage awards? It's great to enter and win, but what on earth are they? It's not just for, putting on a shelf and gathering dust. What are you doing to leverage them?
So many companies enter our programs year after year. Like Lauren, you've been to the ceremonies with your core group of women and have a blast. And personally, I love seeing, especially individuals going up on stage and accepting their awards. Like, it makes them feel so special, and just being able to have that moment, like, oh, we're going to apply for the Stevie Awards this year. Who's putting in what work, what campaigns do we do? So it's nice to see companies really valuing it every single year. It's not like we won this in 2018. That's good enough. Like, no, they're always working towards bigger and better things. Yeah. And as far as leveraging awards, we were talking about Fortune 500. A lot of times bigger companies, they're like, yes, it's nice to win a Stevie Award. We're going to put the logo on our website, and that's kind of it. And that's totally fine. But for small to medium-sized organizations, we find that they really leverage the awards. They contact local press, social media blasts, podcasts. I feel like they really reap the benefits because they're putting in the effort and the outreach. You're not going to become famous from winning a Stevie Award by itself, but it's the extra mile you put in to share your award that makes you really stand out.
So much. We've got like a checklist, and we give our people we help with awards, we give them a little workbook afterwards, and it's got a checklist in there of what you can actually do to leverage your award. And I think there's like 50 on there, things that you can be doing to leverage the fact that you're now an award-winning business, or you've won an award with your industry. So
I agree with what Lauren was sharing, that sometimes people think, my achievements are too small. I haven't been in business that long. But I want to say that you can't win if you don't enter. That's right. If you've been working hard, if you've seen some success, why not be recognized this year?
Yeah, absolutely. She says that there's no room in business for modesty, so get over yourselves. Mm-hmm. She's also a stand-up comedian, so she does it with far more flair than I do. But, yeah. No, absolutely. I would agree that, now is the time to shine. If there was ever a time that you need to relaunch into business and start really sharing your successes and patting a few people on the back for what they're doing and how you've achieved through these challenging times in the last 18 months, then, well, it's certainly looking, what we're going to be doing going forward. We're talking about a brave new world, it's all going to be different, and so now's the time to really look at how you can use awards to really leverage your brand in the marketplace as well.
Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got a lot of really great information off of this video today. And if you'd like to catch the whole podcast, you can find us on 11 different platforms. So whatever your favorite podcast platform is, we're there. And all you need to do is just search for Best Practices in Human Resources. You're going to see that big pink logo, and I promise you're not going to miss it. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Have a good one.